Hey everybody, welcome to our spring town hall for the Human-Centric AI Council. Today is an extra special day because we get to share with you more than just some of the good ideas that we've been putting together. We get to share with you all of the hard work that the AI Council has done in its first founding year. I am your illustrious host for today and the executive director for the council. My name's Kyle. We haven't met before. Hi. I am the founder of Kyle & Co., and I have a really cool job. I get to study innovation cycles in the world of HR tech and transformation. And I am the fearless leader for this council. We've got a lot of content to cover today, and I'm trying to get it all done in about 45 minutes. So first, what we want to do is reintroduce you to Cohort Zero, which was the founding cohort for the council, and share with you a little bit about the work that we did to get started. Then, of course, the reason why you're all here is to learn about the transformation toolkit that we launched earlier this quarter. And we'll give you a little walkthrough, a click through, and talk with you about how it all fits together. To help us complete that picture, I have invited some of the lead contributors and maybe some of their friends to join us for some lightning round interview and then some live Q&A. So you will actually have an opportunity today to ask us questions about the work that we've done and how we did it and what we prioritized, and just get to know the people who are behind the work. And then we will wrap up with a preview of what's coming next, and maybe even share with you some opportunities to join the fun. So before we get into that, you're going to spend a little bit of time with me and talking about the first year in review. So it's crazy to think about how much has changed in just 1 year. When we first got this council together, and where we are now, it really does feel like a completely different world. In 2025, this was the year that things got really, really serious for AI in the world of work and for HR. It was suddenly everywhere all at once, and in my experience and from where I sit as an industry analyst, it looked like HR practitioners had a lot of catching up to do. The business was running full steam ahead. They loved the sound of this stuff. And from everything from automation to Gen AI, it felt like things changed almost overnight. And the conversation was quickly moving from what is this stuff to where's the ROI? And HR was still scratching its head trying to figure out what exactly is AI. And I think that we saw that shift happen almost instantly. The mandate that we were tasked with was scaling capacity, proving ROI, like achieving greater efficiency in our operations at seemingly any cost. And that pressure to operationalize arrived before the playbook did, right? And in reality, the things that we were experiencing as HR practitioners, HR leaders, was that there were obstacles everywhere. That a lot of the red tape processes that have existed in businesses for a long time were not necessarily helpful. And that there were a lot of checks and balances along the way that were getting us kind of gummed up, right? There was technical, operational, and cultural challenges that we had to overcome, that we were facing. And we had to navigate all of them all at the same time without really a shared understanding of what we were trying to get done and why. So that is what brought the council together. A year ago, we had to answer this question that was at the core of all of what HR was trying to navigate, which was, what is AI? What is it really? And so I observed that there were many HR practitioners who were struggling with answering that question, but there were several in the biz who were doing meaningful work, navigating transformation themselves in their own work or in their own organizations, who actually were ready to help us find answers to that question. Here are the folks that joined. I put out an ask and said, hey, I want to solve this problem. And we had over 30 people who raised their hand and said, I want to help. And this was the Cohort Zero for the AI Council that formed last year. And I I have on here everybody's job titles to give you a sense of the type of work and expertise that they were bringing to the table. But I hope that you see a number of friendly faces, folks that you recognize. What I want you to understand is that this was a hugely collaborative effort. Lots of inputs, lots of ideas, lots of curated resources that went into this. These are the people who showed up, helped us do the work, and shipped the artifacts that we put together in year one. It was made possible by underwriting from a number of vendors in the space who all have a vested interest in helping HR find answers to these questions of what is AI and how do I make it work safely in my organization. They were willing to contribute to this body of work to make sure that we had the resources that we needed and had the capacity to get things done. So thank you to our founding underwriters who said yes when this was just an idea and have stuck around to see it become something real. All of the work that we do is free. We don't consult on this. We don't sell this to you. All of these resources are made completely available to you from the website kyleandco.com because of the support from our underwriters. I also want to take a moment before I dig in to the toolkit that we built to say a special thank you to our steering committee. We had, like I said, over 30 people who raised their hands saying they wanted to contribute to the original body of work, which was exhilarating. It was super exciting for me as it was humbling and also candidly overwhelming. And we had 8 people who wanted to lean in further and make sure that these great ideas that we had and all of this ambition and motivation was actually channeled into work that mattered. And so Rachel, Susan, Melissa, Alicia, Bob, Tara, Rita, and Lydia, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making this vision a reality. I could not have done any of this, literally any of this, without your help. So thank you. Now, some of these steering committee members are here today because they played a really important role in actually leading the delivery of these work streams. You'll see there are a couple of different role types here. A pillar, like Rachel, for example, pillar manager for AI literacy and education, worked closely with Melissa Laswell, who was the workstream lead for AI literacy toolkit. We had, in one hand, people who were a domain expert, who had passion and experience around the pillar. And then we had a workstream lead who was committed to making sure we actually produced something out of all of that great insight, right? So working really closely together to make things happen. We couldn't get the entire steering committee here for you today, but I wanted to make sure that we saved some space to call out their contributions and say thank you. So going into the work, there was a lot of ideas. In our founding sprints, we brought together council members, industry friends, vendors in the space, consultants in the space, to talk about all the things that we could do. What we ended up with was a focus. We decided in year one that we needed to really focus on foundational work. While we had new things that were on the horizon, like agentic HR, which now has come out into play, there were still really fundamental core things that we needed to do. We needed to bulk up AI literacy for all of our HR colleagues. We needed to actually delve into real change management practices specifically for AI. We needed to understand how to evaluate AI solutions because it's different from buying just a traditional piece of software. And of course, we needed to understand how we could responsibly and effectively navigate AI transformation. So we put together 4 different assets, 4 different resources. The AI Literacy Toolkit, which is actually powered by CodeSignal, one of our founding underwriters, and we have a member of the team here today, to create an AI literacy course that anyone can take for free. We put together a change management ebook that helps you dig into what is so unique about AI transformation work and how can we navigate it more effectively. We put together an entire framework for evaluating AI solutions, all gathered together in one single ebook. Helps you think about how to assess vendor claims, how to pilot effectively, and gives you some ideas about how you can start to measure value in HR. And then we have this incredible workbook about how to, a guided framework for how to pick up a concept and run with it. How to navigate all the different steps along the way, making sure that you take a great idea and produce a great outcome. Let's have a look, shall we? So I'm going to, if I'm going to share my screen for a second, you'll see that we have all of this is actually living on the Kyle and Co website. Excuse me. At the top, kyleandco.com/AI Council, you can see where all of these resources live. We can click here to explore the toolkit, and you'll see here that we have all 4 of them listed for you. The AI literacy and education toolkit, the responsible AI framework workbook, the AI change management and adoption ebook, and the solution decision framework. And you can just click here to learn more. You can, for the AI literacy program, you can click to access the course. For the responsible AI framework, you can actually click in and there's a whole workbook that you can complete on your own, save it as a document, and work all the way through it. We have the adoption and change management ebook that you can interact. We have an interactive version that just gives you some of the really high level pieces, chapter by chapter. But then you can also just download the entire PDF, so you can have it. You can run it in your favorite LLM. If you're creating a change management project, it can live there. And then, of course, for the solution decision framework, we also have that same treatment where you can click through and look at this at a high level and see what all the different concepts and best practices are that we've put together. And you can download the report, so you can have it in your Google Drive or for your next great trip across the country. If you are interested, you can also just on the site, you can learn a little bit about the work that we're going to be doing this year. I don't want to spoil it because we're going to get to that later. But you can also join in. Raise your hand to let us know if you want to be a part of the council. So that is the body of work that we have so far. I would love to take a moment now to invite some of our contributors to jump in and talk to us a little bit about the work that they've done today. You can go to the AI Council page now, access any of it, but now I think we should learn about what we've done and who's helped us do it. So the very first resource that we are going to discuss is the AI Literacy Toolkit and course. And joining me today, I have Rachel Bourne, who's the VP of AI Transformation, and Katie Fairbank, who is a underwriter of the council representing CodeSignal. Hello, ladies.
Hello, it's such a pleasure.
Yeah, great to have you on. So, and I promised everybody a lightning round. So I have a couple of questions that I'm going to shoot off the hip at you. And Rachel, we are going to start with you. I have to move through all of my different screens because I pulled this together at the very last second here. Sorry.
So much to cover.
I mean, honestly, I have a lot of screens that I'm running through all at the same time all of a sudden. All right, so Rachel, you and Melissa worked really closely to lead this effort on the council side. I would love to hear from you, like at the beginning versus now, like what was the gap in the market that made building this toolkit more than just like another AI training? What made this really worth doing?
Well, it's a really good question. So, because this whole group has all been volunteer, and I think there's definitely a root in the purpose, but this collective effort and the collaborative community that you have brought together, to be honest, I think is one of the most special things kind of out there. And what we uniquely had was the ability to see into a large diversity of organizations, large to small. I mean, I feel like we covered every industry in the Fortune 500, right? And the gap was really clear. Like once you sort of looked at what was happening in organizations, HR leaders were being told that AI literacy matters, right? Like get on the bus. And then they were handed like a 1 hour e-learning. It was like, call it done. But what we kept hearing from our friends and our colleagues in the room was, I don't know enough to lead this conversation, but I'm expected to, right? What does this really look like for me? So they weren't looking for this other tool demo and that, or another L&D course, which is what existed then. So our team really approached it as a design problem, also very rooted in this sort of responsibility to the HR function in the industry. We needed a way to earn a seat at the table. And I think that we as HR leaders over time probably have also had a tendency to self-select out. We're the human people, not technical. And You know, while we've had great friends with HRIS or IT who have picked up this, you know, we needed a way to build for that. So Katie and her team were amazing to really help us deliver what I think was a more structured learning experience, you know, not this training event, right? Something that built capacity over time. And, you know, our sort of step was like, just take the first step. Like it feels big today, but you just have to really get started.
Yeah, and I will say that this was the one effort as we were trying to pull it. This was a volunteer agreement, or
Yeah.
not a volunteer agreement. This is a volunteer effort. This was the one work stream that had the most interest from our volunteers.
Mm.
This was a lot of cat herding to be done, but I think as you described there, Rachel, like we tend to select out of the technology conversation. I think that's a really important signal that of everybody that wanted to contribute to this body of work, this is the work stream that everybody was most attracted to. So I feel like this is hopefully starting to move, that needle starting to move. It certainly was playing out that way with the council.
I feel that way. I mean, especially even after you and I were at Transform together in March. You know, there's definitely, and Katie was there too. I mean, we had a that we've taken a step forward, right? I think as an industry and as a function, we still have a ways to go. And I think that this will be a onion we keep peeling for a while, to be honest. I mean, I learn new things every day, and I have the privilege to do this as a day job,
Yeah,
right?
right. And I think it's funny, an anecdote that I don't remember if it was you or Melissa shared with me, but some of the work that we did in the original, like started with back last summer, it felt redundant because things had moved so quickly. But here we are. All right, so Katie, your team at CodeSignal built the applied learning course that we deployed at the Transform conference this spring. I would love to hear from you. What does the course do that there's a lot of AI training, right? What does this do? How does this work that maybe others don't offer? And why does that matter for the HR audience specifically?
Yeah, good question. Okay, short story to answer your question. I have this good friend. We exchange books all the time, and I told her I was reading this business book, and I finished it, and she was like, "Hey, can you tell me, like, was there anything worthwhile in that book? Should I be reading it? You know, what's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was really great. What did it say to do? I forget." And the problem is that I had learned all the concepts, but I hadn't actually put them into my work. So I didn't see if they were working. I didn't really know what I learned. And that's a problem that we were trying to avoid with this course. So what we did is we took the incredible body of knowledge that Rachel and Melissa and team had put together, and we tried to build practice scenarios off of that. So what you're going to be doing in the course is you're going to have a knowledge check. You're going to make sure you understand the concepts, but the majority of your time is going to be spent actually practicing applying those concepts. When you do have conversations in the workplace, they're going to feel a little bit more natural because you've already gone through that before. And I think what's really cool about this course is that this isn't just some third party telling you what you should be doing. This is actually built on the recommendations of the council and of practitioners that know what you're facing every day. And it's super targeted to HR. It's not going to be some theoretical kind of esoteric thing. It's going to be something that actually reflects what you'll be doing at work.
I mean, I can't imagine an applied learning course that's going to be far removed from my realities. Well, a question for you both, but Rachel, maybe I'll start with you. For those HR leaders that are listening, companies big or small, I know that many are aware that they need to build AI literacy in their team, but many don't know where to start. What is one move that you would offer to them to make this month to get that wheel turning?
Well, aside from attending HCAIC webinars or calling CodeSignal, you know, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and especially for established leaders who are with their teams. You know, we have sort of a tendency, also, especially enterprise level, we want to design the perfect plan and we want to roll out the perfect thing. But there's not going to be a perfect one. So, you just have to get started. But I'm a big fan of listening. I've been doing a lot of that lately, and you know, especially if you're working with your team every day. I don't know that we really stop and listen with intention and
Mm.
ask what tools are people already using officially or not? Where do they feel most uncertain? What are their pain points? What are they more, what are they uncomfortable with, or where do they wish they had more support? I think that when you do that, you also realize there's probably more informal AI adoption than you think. And the team's gaps are going to be specific and very wide across individual learners. So a generic training probably isn't going to work. And that listening, I think, becomes a diagnostic for you, right?
Yeah.
That's how I would really approach it.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, I think that also there's a lot of value in kind of slowing down to speed up. I try to challenge myself to like take even just 5 minutes a day to learn something, because I find that part of the challenge with AI is that we're all figuring it out at the same time. And like, I don't know what I don't know. There are so many use cases that I'm not thinking of. And I could go in and I could just get started, and you should absolutely do that. But also having the foundational understanding of what others in my space are doing, what system is best for what, all of that, just taking a few minutes to learn is going to help you be so much more effective when you dive in. So it is worthwhile to just invest a little time in professional development and learning there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you both for joining, Katie and CodeSignal. Thanks for bringing the work to life. And Rachel,
Thanks
thank
so
you for
much,
everything
Kate.
you've done. I'll catch you guys later. We'll bring you back on for the Q&A. And speaking of Q&A, I know I'm running a mile a minute. We have so much content to cover. So while we're talking through, I encourage you to scroll through the site and interact with some of the resources that we already put in play. And then drop in the chat if you have any questions or comments, any feedback. These are your peers. Encourage them with some of the things that you're seeing, things that you like, or ideas that you have. Next up on the agenda, we are going to bring my friend Adam on stage to talk about our AI solution evaluation framework, that was delivered by our friend Lydia Wu, who couldn't make it today. Adam, hi, how are you today?
Hello, how's it going, Kyle? Happy to be here.
Thanks for making time for me and for dressing up, especially for us.
Of course.
All right, so longtime friend and thought partner of the illustrious Lydia Wu. I am sure that you maybe even offered some ideas to this, as some of the thinking. But when you read the framework that the council put together for this workbook, what's the part that like snapped into focus for you? Like, what was the thing you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like my friends and colleagues should be thinking about this when they're evaluating AI. Anything stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot. I think that the toolkit is just so useful because we're moving so fast, which I think is one of the themes you brought up early on, right? Is that we're under immense pressure to do something with AI. And what Lydia has put together puts a common language to that. Because you can go into AI and you could go into Claude right now and be like, hey, Claude, like, what should I focus on? And it'll spew the average of all the content that's out there, all the different dialogue. That's not necessarily going to get you directionally to where you need to be. What snapped into focus is that readiness is a language, right? It's a framework, and
Mm.
similar to what we just talked about with AI literacy, it's very easy to kind of skip that. It's like,
Mhm.
let's just start throwing AI at things. So really kind of breaking it down into dialogue that we've already applied when it comes to vendor selection over the last 30 years of HR tooling, and kind of translating that to AI, I think is a tremendous value, right? When we think about building, borrowing, buying, and botting, when we think about what are the different maturity levels around AI. And what I'm really impressed with too with this framework is that given when it was written and how much change we've seen in the world of AI, it still holds very strongly, right? Because AI is largely constrained by how we work. So yes, the models may get smarter, they may get more sophisticated, they may be able to code more sophisticated software, but we still have to do work that creates economic value, right? And we are constrained by our broader systems in doing that. So it really kind of meets you in the middle of how do we get work that means something done, and how do we use AI to get more value out of that.
I love it. Although I do wish we could just stay in idea land and dream of what we could do and how. We've got to get things done, which is why one of the founding pillars for the council was value, and why we leaned in at this foundational level to talk about solution. It's not just like AI, like innovation evaluate. It's like we really need to find ways that this is going to solve the problems that are in front of us. So you yourself have been in the room for AI decisions. You have contributed to transformation work. Where do you see HR teams maybe making this mistakes that the framework that we've put together might help to prevent?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a common failure mode that Lydia calls out. And again, it goes back to how you can apply just ways of assessing vendors historically to AI with a more deliberate framework, which is that problem definition, right? We often skip problem definition. This is a challenge with selection before this, but it's even bigger with AI because the risk you take when you don't define the problem and you say, you know what? Let's use AI for onboarding. What is the problem that you're solving, right? Who are the people involved in onboarding? Where are the struggles? I think, again, another really big value add in the toolkit is the KPIs, right? Actually giving you ready measurements. Because oftentimes we go into these without thinking about how we're going to define and measure success. So we're just like, let's throw AI, and then the measurement of success is, do people clap after a few months, or are they running away scared, right? And that's not always the most effective data to tell you whether or not your pilot or your solution deployment was effective.
I think that's such a savvy point, especially because one of the key measures of success for tech projects in the past was adoption and utilization of a tool. Token maxing is the new trend, right? And for us to burn through all of our tokens with an agentic use case does not an outcome make, right? And so I do think that problem statement is so critical, which is, I love that call out. It's something that's always been important to this kind of work, but it's critical specifically for AI. So in closing, let's think about, like, you're in your office, I'm in mine. Like, what is one thing that I should stick on my wall, that every HR leader should stick on their wall? One question, one concept from the framework. Which one would you pick?
Yeah, I think if I had to kind of cascade the framework into kind of a single sentence, but like maybe a string of questions, it would be, what work problem are we solving? Right? What level of intelligence does it require? Is it something simple? Is it something complex? Right? And what ownership or governance model can we responsibly sustain? Like, I think if you focus on the problem definition, the intelligence application, and the governance, you can move and make progress.
I love it. I need to get some needlework of laying that out. I have one that's like, here is my field of fucks. Behold that it is bare. Need something cute like that. Well, Adam, I appreciate you jumping in here, and as a peer to one of the contributors, giving us a sense of what you got out of the framework. I will look forward to collaborating with you more this year in Cohort 1.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, next up, we are going to do an interview with our friend Alicia, who was the lead contributor of the Change Management and Adoption ebook, which gives us a sense of how AI change management, AI transformation really is a different initiative. Let's check it out. Okay, Alicia, so how long have you been doing change management in general? I mean, AI is new, but this core work is not. So how long have you been at this?
Oh goodness, Kyle, you're making me date myself at this point. This has been well over a decade of my experience working through various different change and transformations between organizational transformation, rolling out new tools, rolling out new workflows that have been redesigned from scratch. All of these involve really understanding a human experience and being able sometimes to say, how can we bring not only technology to bear, but how do we understand what those barriers are and moving forward to adoption so that people understand how to use it, they're aware, they're willing, they have the capabilities. We're moving through all of those change aspects, but for me, it's been really interesting, exciting in an AI era because it's not just one. We're not just talking process. We're not just talking technology. We're bringing so many different aspects together to say, all right, how can we really bring the human experience and technology together in a more unified way than it has in the past.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think that what's been helpful is for me, and I'm trying to wrap my head around so many new things, is AI is just the use case for many of the skills and expertise that we have been developing for a long time. As you approached building this resource, what were some things that you wanted to make sure, like you knew out of the gate that you wanted to bring to the table?
So I'm really happy that we could emphasize the human experience with this one. And one thing that I think was harder for me is understanding that this really is a systems and it's how everything comes together. Sometimes people are walking in and their challenge is governance. There's confusion with governance. Sometimes their tools are available, but they're not made available to the people who need to use them. There's integration issues where the tools are made available, but the data that I need them to connect with isn't. So sometimes in my real experience is that the enablement and success story does have different failure points, but here we're really emphasizing and understanding the human side so that we can bring that to bear, that once you get your technology and your infrastructure settled, it really is about the human piece.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think that's really telling that this is different kind of change management, which is why, like you said, this is really truly transformational, transformation work. Talk to me about the COM model, capability, opportunity, motivation. Where did this come from? Was this yours, or did you develop it for this? Yeah. Where did this come from?
So I am not fully going to take credit for this one. In behavioral science, this is one of our foundational models that we use to promote behavioral change. And so coming from that background, I felt like it really does address the foundations of human behavior that is so critical for these kinds of transformations. And I brought it to bear for addressing the fundamentals of motivating behavioral change in AI adoption.
I mean, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Okay, so what did you love most about this work, this body of work? What was most inspiring to you as you developed this?
The thing that I am most passionate about, and also being able to see this in my day-to-day work right now, is moving beyond the single training to continuous learning environments. We've talked about it in the past around really trying to encourage growth mindsets, but it doesn't always stick. Now I think we're in a new environment where people are starting to see it and it's starting to stick. And the way that it's sticking is because we're actually activating some of these methods. When I'm talking to managers and they first tell me, all right, come teach my people AI, we've just got access to these new tools, or the flip side, my people are very concerned about losing their jobs. Is AI going to replace them? Can you come tell us about AI? Because they have this fear. They really want me just to come in for a one-time presentation or training, and they're not ready for me sitting down with them and saying, here's how we're going to address leading change. We're going to address this by, I need you to help build cultures. I need you to build routines for staff. This isn't just about learning how to use AI. It's about building habits. I need them to have time for experiment. I need you to support that experimentation by giving them those times. And it's after they go through and they see the variation of how they need to work with these tools, after they start seeing their staff come up to them after this training and showing them how to do things not covered by us in the training, but them trying to figure out how to bring it into their workflows, it's starting to stick. And so seeing that transformation in the workplace of people now not just building new ways of working within individual work streams, but seeing managers change how they engage with their staff to create environments that support adaptation, experimentation, and figuring out how to lead change in real time through AI. Like, that to me has been very inspiring. And it's, again, the opportunity to help change stick.
Alicia, thank you so much for making time for us today and for walking us through what you've built and why you built it the way you did. I really appreciate everything that you've done in our founding cohort.
Thank you, Kyle. It's been such a pleasure and honor to be a part of the Human-Centric AI Council and our pillar and strategic. I'm going to try that again. Thank you, Kyle. It's been such a pleasure and honor to be a part of the Human-Centric AI Council and working with such a phenomenal team and building the resources that we did with Cohort Zero. For everyone here, you're joining us to see the resources that we've made today that we're very excited about. But you know what? We have a new cohort coming in. Come back 1 year from now. Kyle, I'm sure we're going to see phenomenal things from Cohort 1. So thanks for pulling this together. And everyone on the call, please enjoy the resources and continue to engage.
Alicia, and you know what? In the true spirit of innovation, we pivoted. Everybody can trip up on their words like every once in a while. Next up, I have the honor of inviting Tara on stage, who was the lead contributor for the incredible Responsible AI Transformation Workbook that we have put together. Tara, why don't you come on? Hola. Welcome. All right, I have to say, Tara, we were so sad that you couldn't make it to Unleash with us this spring, because Susan Jackson and I got to give actually a boardroom session walking people through this resource. And now, mind you, everybody that's on, like, governance is not going to get us on the keynote stage at these events. Yeah. But the nerds who came to our session, they said this was the best session of Unleash, which is a big thing. There's a lot of content there, right? So Tara, first of all, great work, my girl.
Thank you. Thank you. Susan and I enjoyed working on it. It was really fun. So excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, likewise. Well, so, all right, the framework that you've put together is built around people risk stewardship, which I really like this concept. It's not just around like generic compliance or governance. This is specifically what HR has to work through, right? So talk to me a little bit about that distinction. What does that mean in practice, and why was it the right framing for this work?
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about the work that HR does, we sit at the intersection of the most sensitive decisions organizations make, whether that's compensation, hiring, promotion, et cetera. And so we really had to think about not what are the minimum requirements from a legal and compliance standpoint, but we really wanted to make sure that we were providing resources that were going to help people think through how do we protect trust and fairness and transparency in HR processes and decision making. We want to make sure that we're not amplifying existing inequities or, creating black box decision making or further eroding employee trust. All of these things could be downstream negative impacts if you're not handling the implementation of AI in an HR process correctly. So we really wanted to provide a solution that helped to safeguard employees and candidates, but without preventing innovation, but in actually enabling it. So, we kind of came up with a framework, and just as Katie and Rachel mentioned in their segment, right, it's really about, you have to slow down to speed up and be really intentional about how you do AI in a human-centric way. Always anchoring to like, what is the problem we're solving, of course. That's like P0. But in the case of, yeah, exactly. But in the case of risk and compliance, it's like, what is the risk tolerance of my organization? Every organization is different. Some are very risk adverse. Some are a little bit more loose and, want to take some more risks in order to further accelerate innovation. So really kind of taking an inventory of, what your organization is about, and then, getting an inventory of where you have AI in practice today. Where is it happening? How is it happening? Is it facilitating decisions or just informing them? Is there any oversight that's happening today? And most importantly, what are the risks that are introduced with where AI has been deployed? And from there, you can really then start to build the framework for how you start to mitigate those risks.
Sorry, I had clicked my the mute button on my mic and not on my screen. See, Alicia, we can all flub through this, but I was going to say, like, Tara, that thorough thought process is like so helpful for us to show them, like, to put that into not just like writing about it, but creating a workbook that helps them walk through it. I just absolutely love. I'm really, this is one of my favorite tools that we built this year. Part of why this is so good is because you and Susan, who were lead contributors on this, have both lived inside of organizations that are trying to do responsible AI well. You've actually done the work and not just observed it. So, in your experience, where do you see other HR organizations like get this wrong or getting stuck? Like where does the framework give them? What does the framework give them that helps them fix that and keep moving?
Yeah. It's so important. I think AI is evolving extremely rapidly, and organizations are either concerned that they're behind or they want to be on the forefront of it. And so speed is super important. And so HR teams are running to adopt HR tools faster than they build governance around them. It's looked at as a technology initiative and not an HR operating initiative. So things like governance kind of get left to legal or IT. Again, you're looking at that like minimum check the box on the legal things and not necessarily taking a step back and thinking about the additional risks that can be introduced with something like AI if it's properly controlled. And then I think, like, as always, and this really ties into some of the work that Alicia did and why this body of work is so cool because it all interconnects, but organizations underestimate how much change management and human judgment still do matter, right? And so being really deliberate about not just deploying AI, but thinking about what other components of the process up and downstream really need to be looked at and adapted to that. And if you're waiting until you've your post implementation before asking a lot of these questions, it's really too late. And so that's where this framework kind of gives organizations a shared structure and shared language to be able to facilitate these conversations. And what better way to get your legal partners and your compliance partners and your privacy partners on board, especially in those risk adverse organizations that are, really wanting to be super cautious. If you can show up to the table with a framework that demonstrates you have some basic understanding of not just the legal aspects, but you've thought through what are the risks that would be introduced and how you would mitigate them, think about the more productive conversation that you can have to get to a place where they're going to be supportive of moving forward with these solutions. So instead of kind of abstract principles, the workbook really puts together something intentional for practitioners. It helps them identify, the types of risks, how to score those risks, how to mitigate around those risks, and really making sure that we are putting in the right processes to evaluate where risk is, if the controls in place for the risk are actually being mitigated.
I love to hear it, and especially because it creates an opportunity for us to be a better partner to the folks internally that we need their help from. For us to set the stage, I think invites them to lean in, and it's like setting the expectation of I'm showing up for you.
Yeah.
We've got a lot that we need to work through. You know what I mean? I just like the way that it sets HR up to not just beg for help and support, but to drive alignment.
Exactly.
All right. Well, what do we take away? Again, I loved the question for Adam. Like, if I'm going to get my little needlepoint frame up on the wall, or there's just so much to this. Mm-hmm. Where do I start? Download the workbook. But like, what's the first move that you would say for HR leaders that actually matters here?
Yeah, I think that the one thing to avoid is figuring, to feel that you have to sit down and build this holistic end-to-end governance plan before you do anything. And you don't, right? So the first move that actually matters is really building visibility. Do a current state analysis. Understand where AI is already being used across HR and how is it being used? Is it just influencing decision making, or is it actually independently making decisions? Because that distinction when it comes to risk and compliance really does matter. And where do you have the highest people level risks? You ultimately, you can't govern what you can't see. And then take one of those things on that inventory and really pressure test it using the tools that are provided to make sure that you understand the role that AI is playing. Where could things go wrong? Where you have risks, are there controls in place? Are they working? If they're not in place, how can you put them together? And it really will build your maturity one core process at a time instead of trying to boil the ocean with putting together the holistic plan for all aspects of AI in one organization. So it's, again, really shifting the focus from slowing down to speed up, that, being responsible and transparent with how you're using AI actually enables innovation, not slows it down. And it can make sure that your AI adoption can be scalable and bring all of your stakeholders, candidates, regulators, leadership, bring them along, right? And build that trust along the way.
I love it, especially like confronting the fact that like you do not need to have a fully fleshed out, fully set up governance framework in place. It's almost like a balancing act of building the plane while we fly it, but then also going slow to go fast. It's the same. It's two things at the same time. But folks, I really would encourage you to scroll through the workbook that they've put together. It'll give you some really great framing to see that it is possible to do both of those things at the same time. All right, so we have heard from all of our contributors for the Transformation Toolkit launch. We are coming up on time, but I do want to give us a chance to bring everybody back on stage and see if the folks who have joined us for the live stream have any questions. So yeah, Tara, Katie, and Rita, hey, welcome back to the stage. And for anybody who didn't catch in the SteerCo shout out, I want to welcome Rita onto the stage, who was our strategic program manager for our founding cohort. Hi, Rita.
Hi everyone. How are you? Thanks for having me. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm reminded just now that the very first town hall that we did last summer was when you decided you wanted to be a part of the work. So now here you are on stage. How does it feel?
I was actually just thinking that this morning. I was like, what a year it has been, because I remember myself being on a town hall as a participant and being so impressed by this group that then I contacted Kyle and I was like, hey, can I come play? And Kyle happily for me accepted my involvement. So it's been a great year, and I'm really excited about what the next year will bring to us as well, because as everybody has already mentioned, this AI stuff, it won't stop, it can't stop, it will continue evolving. And I think we as practitioners will continue to have to shift and move and change how we work to make sure that we take the best of what's available. And I've been actually looking at the chat, and we didn't have a lot of chatter in the chat, but I think that's because the content was so good and the materials are so well designed that everybody kind of disappeared into the materials. But I did see a comment from Rob, kind of really leaning into what we're going to be doing this year. And I thought, great minds think alike. Learning from each other about how things are being implemented and what we see in terms of the kind of next steps, how the toolkit comes to life and makes it off the piece of paper or of the internet site. So Kyle, did you want to talk a little bit more about our focus this year on that in terms of bringing back those stories to this group?
Yeah, I think it will be a good segue for the early agenda that we have for next year. Mm-hmm. But one way, and hi Rob, thanks for joining. I also saw my friend John Baldino in there too. He always has to flex on us and let us know that he's in Vero Beach. But Tara, something that comes to my mind to respond to that is like learning from other people. Is the pressure that we felt when we were putting these resources. I know, like you told me, Kyle, I'm never doing this level of work again because it's an immense amount of work. We really had to curate and articulate the best practices that we've gathered throughout our career, right? That was the hard part about this first round of work. Mm-hmm. I am looking forward to launching a case study program in this new year where we can start to elevate and curate the work that's being done by others. That way it's not just on Tara and Rita, like for us to have the answers to like, here's what best practice AI transformation is, instead we can say, look, this is great work that's being done over here.
And I think that's so important because as I mentioned, like every organization is going to be looking at AI through a different lens, right? And because it is evolving so quickly, there are going to be lots of different ways people experiment and ultimately fail or succeed with how it gets embedded in the organization. So it's a really exciting time to sort of pull back the curtain and understand what's worked for others and what hasn't, so that the broader set of practitioners across HR can really learn from each other.
Yeah, I think so too. Katie, I am going to throw something at you out of left field.
I'm ready.
I know. You'll be probably expecting this because I've told you this is my idea. But we're going to show people what our agenda is for this year. I know that you picked, for CodeSignal's partnership here, you picked up a lot of different artifacts that we had put together, definitions of types of AI and different ways to evaluate different tools, and built that original like AI 101, like with applied learning. What do you think about picking up these other things, these other tools that we've already built this year, like in this first year, and turning those into courses as well, so we can start to apply some of the more complex stuff like responsible AI transformation and AI evaluation, solution evaluation?
Absolutely. We'd love to. And no better way to get our commitment than on a public forum where I would say, yes, let's do this. Now we have to do it. I'm just kidding. We talked about this before. But no, I think it's really important to make this content as accessible as possible to everyone. And if we can help you do that in an effective way, we're happy to help. I think it's going to be huge. And seeing the reaction that we got at Transform and Unleash to the initial course that was put out, we were featuring it at our booth. And I know, Kyle, you mentioned some of the sessions that talked about it, but it's been really good feedback. And so we want to be out there helping people and being a microphone for you all. One other thing that I was going to mention on the previous question too is any vendor worth their weight should be able to connect you to other customers too. Lean on your vendors for support to understand how things are being implemented. Ask your CSM or your account rep or whoever if there's any customers doing this well, and they should introduce you. So don't forget that we're a resource too.
Yeah, right. I love that you are positioning yourselves as a resource and throwing some shade around at the same time. Well, wouldn't have it any other way. Well, Tara, Katie, thank you for making time to join us today and share with us some of the work that you're doing. Rita, do you want to hang out with me for a little bit while we just wrap up with showing people what we're doing, what we have planned for next year?
Sure, sure. I would love to.
Cool. All right, let me pull up I'm getting requested to share my screen. So you guys are going to see some of the ugly. There we go.
You see behind the screen.
I know. Can you see my whole screen?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let me share this. We'll do this better for next time, guys. This is on me. All right, so back to the agenda. Kyle, please, girl. All right, so what comes next? So lots and lots of work went into year one, but including figuring out how to make all this work, to be completely honest with you. A lot of good ideas and a lot of willing people, but not enough established ways of working. That's partly why I'm so excited to have Rita here joining us now. Oh my God, what did I just do? Oh my God, this is so annoying. All right, so the 4 focus areas that we have identified for this year, we actually got together at the spring conferences and sprinted through a bunch of feedback and ideation, and this is what we've landed on. I'm really, really excited to share with you all what we have planned for this year. So we are going to go from what is AI to how do we do this well. Year 2 builds on that foundation that we laid in year 1, less defining, more deploying, and lots of practical frameworks and examples of how the work is getting done. So the big one, and Rita, you were a part of the sprint for this one at Unleash, which was defining the human-centered HR operating model. This one got a lot of attention, a lot of interest, right?
For sure. And that's very close to my heart as well as a transformation leader. When we talk about adding anything into the process, this time it's AI, it always impacts how the operating model continues to evolve. So very big work stream for us and lots of opinions as well. So I'm really excited to get in and kind of consolidate all of these opinions into a framework or a toolkit that is actually usable for our colleagues and practitioners.
I'm with you. I imagine that we're going to have a combination of thought leadership of like ideas that we have or best practices that we espouse, as well as examples of how this is actually playing out in the market. The next focus area that we have is continuing to build on the work that Tara and Susan's work stream began in year one, which is the governance and risk framework. So what we have for you right now are considerations for governance and definitions of different types of risk. What we really want to build out now is some best practice templates for AI governance and for AI risk assessment. We're making sure that it remains practical, because actually one of the big points that Tara made that I want to underline here is great governance and great risk management actually helps you move faster. And y'all, things aren't slowing down. So this is going to be a major focus area for us. Maybe a little drier, but definitely hugely valuable. Also, I already put Katie semi on the spot, but our third focus area is to scale our AI literacy and education program into practical capability. We will continue to partner with CodeSignal to build out new AI applied learning courses, but you'll see us building out more AI literacy and education content specific for role types and personas, for organization sizes and industries, but that work is just going to continue to grow. I'm really excited to bring some expert learning professionals to that body of work to help us build learning paths and to organize the content into more than just stuff. But that one's going to be an evolution of year one's work as well. And then we've mentioned already, but I am especially bullish on our fourth focus area, which is launching a human-centric AI case study program where we get to elevate the work that's being done and not just wax philosophical about the work that should be done. I really do look forward to breathing life into this. If you are dialed in and interested in getting some eyes on the work that you're doing, if you're especially proud of it, if you know people who are doing really great work, let us know. Because a unique aspect of this program is that we are every case study is anonymous first, which makes it a little easier, we hypothesize, for people to share what they're really up to. That way we don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of getting comms involved and PR and all that. We can just share with our colleagues what's working for us and what we're learning. So
And
those,
what's not working, right, Kyle? We want to hear about the bloopers too, and we
yeah.
promise to keep it confidential for sure.
I mean, that's going to be critical, right? It's not just all sunshine and rainbows. This is hard work, which means we make mistakes. I think that's a great call out, Rita.
We want it all. The
We do
good
want it
and
all.
the ugly.
And speaking of what we want, we do want it all. There are also other ways to stay involved, to stay in motion here. You can raise your hand to join the next cohort and contribute to the body of work. We actually have a link here that we'll send out the slides to everybody. You'll be able to apply. If you are interested in supporting the work as an underwriter and get connected with the practitioners that are doing really cool stuff, fund, support this body of work, please do let us know. And if you are just a passive interested party that wants to cheer us on from the sidelines, we need that. If you are also just really interested in the work that we're building and want to consume it and use it, make sure that you follow along. But otherwise, we went a little over. I hope you didn't mind sticking around with us for a bit. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining us for this season's town hall. We will look forward to coming back to you with more next quarter. Bye, everybody.